I cannot speak to LifeSite's credibility, but I can speak to the legitimacy of this story because it's one that I've actually been following for the last few months. And yeah, it's very real. Breaking. Jury rules against dad trying to save his 7-year-old from gender transition. That's the father and his boy. A jury has ruled against Jeffrey Younger, the father who is trying to protect his 7-year-old son James from chemical castration via a gender transition. This means James' mother, Dr. Ann G, will be able to continue transitioning him into Luna, and now has full authority to start him on puberty blockers and eventually cross-sex hormones at the age of 7. What? You can't come back from this. The jury's decision likely means that Mr. Younger will be required to affirm James as a girl, despite his religious and moral objections, and will also be forced to take a class on transgenderism, aka indoctrination. With a consensus of 11 of the 12 jurors, the jury decided not to grant Mr. Young sole managing conservatorship over his 2 twin boys. They voted that the current joint managing conservatorship, why can't you just say custody, should be replaced by a sole managing conservatorship, but that Mr. Younger should not be that person. Judge Kim Cooks will read her ruling on possession, child support, and Dr. G's other request at 1:30 p.m. on Wednesday. Mr. Younger and Dr. G were in court last week fighting over custody and decision-making abilities for James and his twin, Jude. Mr. Younger argues his ex-wife is transitioning James against the boy's will. Dr. G, who brought the lawsuit, was asking Mr. Younger's possession schedule be altered to decrease overnight stays and to force his visits with the boys to be supervised. Dr. G brought the original modification suit to the court and did not request a jury trial. Mr. Younger, in his counterpetition, asked for a jury trial. Bad move. Since Mr. Younger requested the jury trial, the jury ruled on his specific request for sole managing conservatorship, and the judge ruled on all other aspects of the petition as brought by Dr. G. She was also asking that Jeff be forbidden from calling his son James, his given and legal name, and that he be prohibited from bringing James around people who do not affirm James as a girl. What about the other son, Jude? Mr. Younger was asking to be granted sole managing conservatorship of the boys, meaning he would have had complete authority over medical, psychological, and other decision making for the boys. The jury did rule that one of the parents should be sole managing conservator, but it shouldn't be Mr. Younger. So, oh my goodness. Before this case, Dr. G had complete authority over psychological care decisions for the boys. She was required to inform Mr. Younger of her decisions, but he did not have any say in her choice of care. Last week, the arguments revolved around James' diagnosis of gender dysphoria, medical records recommending he begin a process of preparing for puberty blockers, and expert testimony about the risk and alleged benefits of puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones on a 7-year-old. Mr. Younger is worried about Dr. G's forcing a lifetime of misery on their son. You think? Transgender identifying individuals, even when encouraged in their confusion, suffer from more psychological issues than the general population, have shorter lifespans, and are more likely to commit suicide. According to the Mayo Clinic, possible side effects of feminizing cross-sex hormones therapy are a blood clot in the deep vein, high triglycerides, a type of fat in your blood, gallstones, weight gain, elevated liver function test, decreased libido, erectile dysfunction, infertility, high potassium, high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, excessive prolactin in the blood, or a condition in which the non-cancerous tumor of the pituitary gland in the brain overproduces the hormone prolactin. Why would you subject a 7-year-old to all of this? This is mind-blowing stuff. Witness expert testified to the child's inability to fully comprehend the potential side effects of such therapy, such as permanent infertility, inability to ever naturally engage in sexual relations, and a decreased lifespan. On Friday, protesters called on Texas lawmakers to pass legislation making it illegal for anyone under 18 years of age to begin a medical transition. They argue that children cannot fully understand the lifelong consequences of their decisions, and parents should not be allowed to make the decisions for their children. Amen. Currently, there aren't any U.S. laws that restrict the use of puberty blockers or cross-sex hormones or outline a minimum age of administration. Dr. G testified today James and Jude are not actually biologically related to her. They were created through in vitro fertilization, and the couple used an egg donor. So it's not so whoa. So that's not even her kid, though. I mean, technically, these aren't even her children. And she's getting to make these decisions on their behalf? I mean, my goodness. And this is in Texas. Oh, wow. This is mind-blowing stuff. It really is. And it's a big part of the reason why I wanted to do a video on this. Because for as crazy as I may seem sometimes, I'm nowhere near this nutty. And so, all you can really do is, toss a prayer up for Mr. Younger and his sons. And hopefully, there's something that doesn't involve taking a 7-year-old and putting them on a life-altering path that could really ruin them for the rest of their lives. I mean, that this is insane. And this is a jury. These are a jury of adults decided that, yeah, it's okay to put a 7-year-old on hormone and on puberty blockers. I mean, come on, man. Come on. Particularly when apparently the sperm or the semen is Mr. Younger's, but the eggs aren't Dr. G's. Oh wow. Oh wow, guys, be very careful as to who you decide to build lives with, man, because you can very easily find yourself in the same type of situation. So, with that being said, we're going to bring this one to an end. All the internet stuff. If you liked it, toss it a like. Oh, by the way, Madeline Jacob wrote this. If you liked it, toss it a like. If you dislike it, go ahead, do that too. I'm not scared of you. Sub if you enjoy my fantastic voice and you want to give videos like this every single day. Share, because sharing is caring. And YouTube and BitChute and the like, they're not my biggest fans. And speak. Let me know, what do you think in the comments? Man. I'm sorry, James. I feel terrible for this kid, particularly what happens in 10 years when, if this goes through, like the choices that are being made on his behalf are nothing but destructive. And honestly, all those 11 jurors that thought this was cool, yeah, y'all all need to get locked up for child abuse. The same thing with Dr. G and anybody who's trying to, who wants to sit there and let a 7-year-old go on hormone blockers, on puberty blockers and mess with their biological functions without their knowledgeable consent. This is ridiculous. But you may feel differently, and that's what I have a comment section for. So until the next one.